Hey, Jay here. We're back here, part 2 of this KTM 350 XCF build. Really fun bike, and I still think it's the best off-road bike ever. Really cool, and it's been a really fun project. I've been riding the bike a bit. I'm going to take it out again this weekend, and we've done a bunch of more mods to it because I can. So I like to just keep throwing stuff at it, and also weighed the bike. The bike comes in at 250 pounds with full tank of gas, handguard, skid plate, all the other parts we've added, which is actually one of our lightest trail bikes, even lighter than the 250 I've been riding. So really good. It might sound like a lot, but it's actually for a trail bike that's fully ready to go. It was pretty good. So weight is really good. Weight is actually only about 3 pounds heavier than my boy's 200 two-stroke. So that's pretty impressive. And that's a 15-200. So that's pretty impressive for this bike. So it's a really good bike. Of course, it doesn't have the headlight like his bike does, but the bike is so amazing on the trails. So we've added some good parts since the last build in that part 1 of our ultimate trail bike here. So we're going to kind of talk about and show you everything we've done and put some more time on this thing. Hey, so right here you can see this yellow switch. This is the Vortex ECU. This replaces your stock ECU, or black box as they used to be called. That you replace it, and this one takes the place of it. This switch allows us to switch from map 1 to a different map, whichever one you set on your dial. We set map number 5 is the most powerful one, like for big hill climbs or motocross track. Map 1 is the best overall trail map. So we've only played with it a bit, just one day of trail riding on it, and it seems really good so far. So we've added the switch in here, and that sits right underneath the seat of the bike. It's kind of an expensive unit, but it's really cool and helps the bike really well, especially at altitude and so forth. Really good performance. So for this bike, one of the things we want to do is have the suspension set up for me. It was pretty decent before. It wasn't bad at all. But we went ahead and had Race Tech go through and revalve and set this up for me for trail riding and my weight and skill level. And so went through the shock. The forks are a little bit bigger deal on this bike. The 4CS forks have a lot of guys don't like them. For trail riding, I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's as big a deal as maybe it is for a faster motocross guy. The 4CS forks aren't bad for your typical average, vet, slower guy. It's, I think, fine. But Racetech went through these things and totally redid them for us. So they completely take out all the 4CS internals and put in their gold valves for rebound and compression. And they change up here on top. These used to be rebound on one side and compression on the other side of the forks. So what they've done is changed it. Now rebound is both of these on top, and your compression is both on the bottom. So down here is where, down on the bottom is where you'll have to change your compression on both of them. So now they've become more like regular forks that we're used to over the last 15, 20 years, except they're backwards, and they had to do that because of what's in there with the componentry from WP. So this is supposed to give us a much more regular feel, like a lot of the bikes that we've been riding, a lot of the Japanese bikes, the Showa forks and so forth over the last bit of years. So we'll report back on those. Seems really good, thus far, just riding it a little bit around here, seems really good. Okay, so for our frame here, they had some frame tape on here previous. We threw on this Nihilo frame tape so you don't see kind of how nasty our frame was underneath there. Eventually, when we powder coat this frame someday, maybe in our part 4 or 5 of this thing, we'll put on some frame guards. There's some good ones out there from a few companies, at Chirby's, a few others make some good ones. So we've got that on here. And then we've also added in some Scar foot pegs, titanium. Really strong, very sharp. I've got a really good foot plant for trail riding. The stock ones are kind of nice long, but they're kind of slippery and have already dented in from hitting rocks. So we'll see how these hold up long term for us. The big thing we did, improvement, was to add this link right here. And this link is from Promoto Billet, and it protects the bottom of the shock. And it's kind of a must, and we can show you why. But the bottom of the shock, previous to this going on, before I even got the bike, I think, it got hit on a rock. And it hit the shock, and we were able to kind of buff it off the shock, but it had damaged the lower knuckle. And we'll show you what it did, and that's why I think you want to get one of these on your bike straight away. So here's our knuckle, the stock one. And this thing, without this guard on here, is hanging down with the shock right here. Here's what happened. we got a busted little area right here. So we'll zoom in on that and you can see what happened. We were going to have to use this, but luckily I was able to find a used one from a team that I was able to buy from a racer. So you know what? Really unfortunate. I think for motocross, you probably never have a problem if you stay on tracks. But if you're off-roading at all on one of these newer KTMs, you need to have this piece to protect you. So that's what happens right there if you don't. And so we went ahead and we were going to have to use this one. We repacked it and just packed it full of grease. And I was going to run silicone across here just to keep water out of there and use it. But they kind of messed up the lower bearing. We had to rebuild that bearing, and we got it to move again, but it wasn't very happy. So that's why you want to run this piece. Okay, so we went through our clutch and we installed a brand new clutch plates from Hinson. We also installed 2017 250 SX and XCF springs. So they're a lot lighter springs to give a lighter pull. We were noticing the pull just seemed a little too strong up top, so we're going to see how they hold up. And then we went ahead and added the Hinson cover, a little stronger we think, and also looks extremely awesome. So we got that on here, and we should have some really good clutch action in this bike. So the plastic on this thing was pretty beat up from our previous guy. Cycra has a full kit for this bike now. Every piece. Front number plate's a really cool looking piece. Fender kind of got the full, custom Cycra look with its rear venting, little venting up front. Really cool style to it from Cycra. Got a little bit of goo on here from my sticker install. They got the fork guards. The shrouds look really cool. Back to our rear pieces and rear fender. They have all the pieces for this bike and all fit up really well, just like stock. So Attack made us some custom graphics to kind of get us started so we'd have a cool look for the rest of this build. Got all the important people that are helping us out on this thing. Hey, we're back here on this part 2 of this KTM 350 best trail bike ever. I kind of feel that way even more now. So what I've done is all those key mods we just went over, but with everything we did, the thing looks amazing. But we've also been beating this thing up on the trail. So she's getting a little bit beat up, but we're putting a bunch of time on it up in our mountain trails. A lot of single track. We switched that rear sprocket to a 52. That's 2 bigger than stock, and that's really helped on those really tight sections of being able to chug in first gear. And also it's let us be able to run second gear in a lot broader range. So now we're running second gear most everywhere, only going to first gear if it's like, you got no warning for a little tight section. So we're running second gear about everywhere. The new clutch hooks up perfect. We got all those parts on there. The thing looks good with our graphics and new plastic. So, check back with us for part 3. It's been a real fun project. I would recommend this bike to anyone. Suspension from Racetech with these improvements is phenomenal. So I think it works in a wide range of area. On the suspension, our clickers are on top for rebound, on bottom for compression. There's 2 on the bottom, and they don't click. Now they're turns, and so we went out a half a turn softer, and that got us really good. So the suspension is really good for us with what Racetech's done. So been a really fun project, and that's kind of the end of part 2, and we'll be looking for part 3 in the future.